Welcome, everybody. I want to thank you all for coming. I'm CLAUDIA PUIG. I am the president of the LA Film Critics Association. Thank you. First off, we have a birthday in the house. I'm going to take the liberty of wishing Ziggy Kozlowski, where are you? I'm doing it on behalf of all of us. Many happy returns of the day. And a few thanks are in order before we get down to business. I would like to thank the hardworking LAFCA Executive Board. First and foremost, Tim Grierson, your ability to shoulder, yes, clap, that. Your ability to shoulder a staggering variety of tasks never ceases to dazzle me. I could spend hours singing your praises and it still wouldn't be enough. Justin, stop eating now, no. From schlepping wine to editing essays, you're always enthusiastically willing to go that extra mile. Despite your workload and having an adorable toddler, I'm sure you'd rather be spending time with, and Lemise also. Amy, wherever you are, Amy. You handle all the accounting duties like a pro, though everyone who knows your work is grateful that you chose to be a critic. We are so fortunate, it wasn't that you're a bad accountant. We are so fortunate tonight, and I apologize, I'm just getting over the flu, so if you'll bear with me. We're so fortunate tonight to have nearly all of our winners and some wonderful special guests. Michael Stolbarg is here in the house. Of course, he's in both Call Me By Your Name and Shape of Water, and just about everything else this year, right? The hardest working man in showbiz. We have writer-producer Amy Lipman here. We're happy to have Chaz Ebert here. She's the publisher, of course, of RogerEbert.com and the employer of about half of the critics in this room. Welcome. There's Jacqueline Leonga, who runs AFI Fest. And traveling all the way from France, we have Cedric Brulé von Sydow, the son of our Career Achievement winner, Max von Sydow. We have Ferdinando Chito Filomarino, who is the AD on Call Me By Your Name, as well as a writer and director in his native Italy. And adding to La Dolce Vita, we have the Italian consulate represented here tonight. Benvenuti. So 2017, a lot has changed since I stood up here a year ago. We inaugurated a new president, and the world feels more precarious. But somehow, despite his knee-jerk accusations of fake news, our world is becoming a more honest place. And if we're lucky, this is just the beginning. A male friend outside the industry asked me recently, "Do you think we're done with these revelations of harassers and abusers?" I tried not to laugh outright. Instead, I told him what I fervently hope is true. These are just a few early battles in a revolution. The Me Too Time's Up moment is not just a headline-grabbing news story. This is a reckoning. Everyone who's had a Me Too moment which is pretty much every woman and some men in this room, feels that simultaneous sense of guttedness, relief, and trepidation right now. We're not really surprised at each fresh new revelation, though the specific names may raise an eyebrow. Mostly the sadness piles up into something akin to sorrowful resignation, agonized recognition. 2 words and a hashtag have dominated the film world and are likely to keep haunting it for a while. Where does this leave us? It's easy to sink into a weary cynicism, but the truth is most of us are breathing easier, experiencing newfound relief that all the soul-sapping repulsiveness that we've had to contend with is being dragged into the light. Of course, we have no idea where it will lead. We don't know how far it will go, and if lasting change will be the outcome. But let's make this the galvanizing experience it can be. After all, we have 2 things. We have hope and we have gratitude. Hope that we can engage in real substantive dialogue and that through that dialogue, the world will improve. We have hope for ourselves and for generations to come. Hope that we'll all be more sensitive, thoughtful, and kind, that women will be treated as equals in the workplace. Hope that the industry is changing. Every woman currently working and those who will work someday owes a big debt of gratitude to those who bravely spoke up and went public with their personal stories, despite the pain it surely caused them. We here at the LA Film Critics Association, collectively and individually, want to thank and honor all the brave whistleblowers who came forward and shared their stories of harassment, discrimination, mistreatment, and abuse by powerful men. We want to thank those women who took the leap and spoke their truths and said enough is enough. For far too long, women have been overlooked, underpaid, and disbelieved. Time's up, indeed. I saw a quote from a rabbi recently in which she said, "In a free society, some are guilty, all are responsible." So I'm calling on everyone in this room, in this time of accountability and reflection, to think carefully about our collective responsibility, to think seriously about where we go from here. Are these Me Too and Time's Up moments a passing phase, or are they seeds of a revolution? We want this moment in time to herald a new day. 2 years ago, our New Generation winner, Ryan Coogler, stood here and encouraged the room to reach out into the community and find the diversity. He said, "Find the voices that are in those places you might not think to look." His words are more relevant than ever. For in the spirit of Time's Up, let's please be responsible. Let's listen to those who haven't been heard before. Let's encourage more women, like our New Generation winner, Greta Gerwig, our experimental film winner, Leanne Schmidt, and our scholarship winner, ANGELICA CRUZ. Let's recognize the importance of allowing filmmakers of color the platform they've so often been denied. Cinema is so much richer for it. Tonight we're honoring Jordan Peele's brilliant screenplay for Get Out. It's a truly great horror film that showed the potential of the genre to illustrate the inequalities of society by shining a light on all the things hiding just beneath the surface. And he made us laugh while doing it. Call Me By Your Name highlighted the ineffable beauty, pain, and pleasure of young romance from a perspective not usually seen. While the details of the story, set in a gorgeous corner of Italy, were strikingly specific, the emotions were profoundly universal. The Shape of Water showed us the agony of being an outsider. Guillermo, my paisano, and the frustration of being overlooked and dismissed, in essence, how it feels to have no voice. For too long, essential voices have not been heard. Entire narratives have been suppressed. Many of us do not see ourselves in film, which is a violation of the promise that cinema holds to connect us to our common humanity. You don't need to be a mute woman to identify with Eliza in Shape of Water. You don't have to be a teenage girl to relate to Lady Bird. You don't need to be a young man discovering his sexuality to find the truth and Call Me By Your Name. Great films resonate on a level that transcends our differences. They provide a pathway to our best selves, the part of us that seek to understand and relate to the world around us. The more inclusive the film industry is, the more we all benefit. The films we honor this year embody this. The voices in this room show the extraordinary potential of this art form. All of us have a responsibility to help pave the way for new talents, to lay the groundwork for the new Lady Bird, the next Get Out, or the next story we can't even imagine yet. The Harvey Weinsteins of the world committed terrible crimes against women, but he and his ilk also committed an egregious crime against art. They denied us stories that needed to be told from perspectives we hadn't seen before. Let's all work together to nurture talent that represents the magnificent breadth of who we are. Let's celebrate narratives that go beyond the obvious, deepen our understanding, and reshape our preconceptions. Let's try to keep Time's Up from becoming maybe next time. Tonight, we're pleased to honor some of the most diverse creative voices in the industry. Our winning films illustrate the human experience in all its glory, messiness, complexity, and fullness. To all of our winners, thank you for fighting to tell the stories that matter. To all the critics here, thank you for seeking out and championing lesser heard voices and helping them get the recognition they deserve. To the power brokers and studio executives in this room, thank you for getting it right with these films. And to everyone, please keep encouraging and uplifting diverse voices. Allow this medium to set the tone for what art can and should be, an inclusive and progressive means of making the world a better place. Thank you. Now, please enjoy your dinner, and we will be watching a video montage highlighting this year's LAFCA winners in just a few minutes. Thanks.
Hello, I'm ANNLEE ELLINGSON, and I am stoked to present this first award of the evening, the LAFCA Ruth Bachelor Scholarship. You know, we female film critics can feel a little numbered at times at movie screenings and at LAFCA meetings. Am I right, ladies? Our members, however, the dudes too, are committed to improving the gender ratio in our field by encouraging and supporting aspiring female film critics. One of the ways we're aiming to do this is by establishing a scholarship named for our founder, Ruth Bachelor. I'm going to be honest, this was a learning process. What do a bunch of film critics know about administering a scholarship? But we reached out to local film and journalism professors to enthusiastic response, and we couldn't be more thrilled with the applications we received. I'm especially delighted to introduce you to our inaugural recipient, ANGELICA CRUZ. ANGELICA attends Mount San Antonio College in Walnut, California. She is studying journalism and television production and is on the path to receiving associate's degrees in both fields. She's been writing for both of her college's publications, SAC Media and Substance Magazine, for 2 years, so she knows how to hustle. Holding a number of editorial positions, and she's received numerous awards for her writing from both the College Media Association and the Journalism Association of Community Colleges. To paraphrase her cover letter, ANGELICA is passionate about telling stories and telling others about stories, and I couldn't be more proud to present her with the inaugural LAFCA Ruth Bachelor Scholarship.
Wow, I'm still kind of starstruck about all of this. It's been a while since I've known, but I'm still like, oh my God, this is happening. But I just wanted to say thank you to LAFCA. To be able to be in this room with so many people who just inspire me. They inspired me to pursue my major, inspired me to write, inspired me to just live, I guess. It's such an honor. Thank you so much to everyone, and thank you for this honor. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Tim. My name is Leonard MALTIN, and I'm wearing a Frankenstein boot in honor of Guillermo. But it's temporary. So there's an old axiom about cinematography that if you notice it, it's not good. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to melt into the whole. It's supposed to blend into the texture of the film in a way that you don't specifically take notice of it. Well, that's also been said about film music and other components of the motion picture. But the truth is that in a really great film, like The Shape of Water, at least for an educated film watcher or film goer, you take it in on both levels, I think, at once. You appreciate the whole. You're in this case, enchanted, entranced by the movie, but you can't help but notice the beauty and the skill of the cinematography by Dan LAUSTSEN. And if he is merely serving his director's vision, then he's not doing his complete job either. He is also an artist, and he is contributing his art and his vision to what Guillermo has been thinking about and imagining for so many, many years. And we are grateful at LAFCA that he did such a beautiful job. And that's why he's won the Best Cinematography Award this year. Mr. Dan LAUSTSEN.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a big honor to be here tonight, and I'm very happy to get this award from Los Angeles Film Critics. It's amazing. I'm so happy to be here. I just want to thank Sally and the rest of the cast, fantastic cast on this movie. And it was just a pleasure to be together with you every day, and it was a pleasure to work together with you. It was so much a pleasure. And I'd like to thank the Canadian crew as well. They did a fantastic job and it supported us all the way through, and that just without them, there would not be a movie. And Guillermo, you are the best. We know that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your dreams and your fantastic vision with us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Guillermo.
Hello, everyone. In keeping with the central theme of Jordan Peele's film, Get Out, I'm going to do something that he does in that film. In his film, he lets everybody in on some things that black folks think and say when you're not around. So here's the deal. When our organization voted to give him the Best Screenplay Award for Get Out, quietly to myself, I thought, ooh, I want to present that award. I really, really want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it. I didn't say this out loud. I wanted to do it because, you know, he's a black dude and I'm a black dude. And I'm thinking, this is actually no reason for me to give him this award just because we happen to both be black, but I don't care. I wanted to do it anyway. I was at the theater, and our wonderful president, CLAUDIA PUIG, was sitting next to me, and I steeled myself, and I was going to turn to her and say, you know, Claudia, and I was going to say the thing, and right before I could do it, she turned to me and said, hey, Tim, you want to give that award to Jordan Peele? He's black, and you're black, and you know. And I thought to myself, geez, I love Mexican women. They get brothers. So I stand here ridiculously and inappropriately proud, because I didn't actually do anything, to give this award to a young wit whose comic talents and whose insight has not graced the tip of a pen since Oscar Wilde, like this young man. I reserve the right to call you a young man because I looked you up, and you were born in 1979. That's the year I graduated from high school. So, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, Best Screenplay for Get Out, Mr. Jordan Peele. Bring it on in. Your plaque is over there. I'll go get it.
Thank you. Graduated high school in '79. So you could be my father. Technically. There's a chance. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, LAFCA. This is wonderful. Thank you for acknowledging my expression. I met Barack Obama a couple weeks ago. And he told me, you know, I would have voted for myself a third term too, if I could. I'm just kidding. I did not meet Barack Obama, by the way. I needed an excuse to do that impression. No, I wanted to talk about him for a second because there is something he says that resonates with me. And he says, you know, progress isn't always a straight line. And I remember that. I think about that a lot often these days. Whenever our current president opens his shithole, obviously. And I think about, what went into writing this screenplay and how important expression is, how important expression of voices that are not usually heard, which makes me extra proud to be here tonight on a night where we're honoring many voices of very talented outsiders, and who I'm very honored to be honored with. I wrote the movie in the Obama era, and the movie was, I love horror. It's my favorite form of expression, and so I had to find, what am I afraid of? What am I actually afraid of? And what I was afraid of was, you're thinking white people. That's not where I was going. What I'm afraid of is the lack of expression, the silencing of voices. In the film Get Out, I call it the sunken place. And that's scary to me because expression, voices, art, that is the weapon we have against actual violence, against actual war. That's what Martin Luther King used to create progress, to create change. And I'm encouraged, even as we stand here today, and it feels like we've taken so many steps backward in terms of how we treat the other, how we treat one another. But I'm very encouraged that out of this time comes a time where we are allowed to amplify and hear these voices from these beautiful outsiders. And it gives me hope for the future. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Hello. I'm Amy Nicholson, and I am the treasurer of LAFCA. Hello. I hope you are all enjoying the night, and if the show runs long, at least we have an actor here who is so good at faking patience that we are giving him the Best Supporting Actor award. Let me admit really quickly before he gets up here that whenever he's shown up on screen in the past, I've been a little scared. But in Sean Baker's The Florida Project, he is the fairy godmother who really works unrecognized to help 6-year-old Mooney believe that she truly does live in a magic castle. And I am so excited to recognize him tonight. So please join me in welcoming to the stage LAFCA's Best Supporting Actor winner, Willem Dafoe.
Thanks so much. I was here 16 years ago. It's nice to be back. Also, I'm particularly happy the fact that in this event they're giving tribute to Max von Sydow, because when I was a dopey kid in Wisconsin, the first foreign film I saw was Ingmar Bergman's The Magician. And of course, Max von Sydow was the center of that, and I watched him for many years, and he's a big hero of mine. So. Thank you for the award. It's appreciated, really. The Florida Project is a true neo-realist film, independent, low budget, real locations, and a mix of actors and non-actors. That was the only way to make this film. With a larger budget and an all-professional cast, I don't think Sean Baker would have been able to achieve the integrity and authenticity in the story of this marginalized community. Sometimes a small film can do what a big film cannot. And obviously, I suppose I'm stating the obvious, but I want to say it. Critics are so important for a film like this, and I really sincerely thank you for recognizing my performance and giving the Florida Project a place at the table. I want to thank Sean Baker, who introduced me to a world that I didn't know and created a beautiful role for me to inhabit. Thanks to A24, June Pictures. Also, I want to give a special shout out to the two great leading ladies of the movie, Bria Vinaitie, and the 7-year-old who I can never seem to beat at rock, paper, scissors, Brooklyn Prince. And lastly, I'd like to thank my wife, filmmaker Giada Colagrande, who always reminds me, don't spit on your luck. Thanks.
Hey everybody, my name is Luke White Thompson. I write for Forbes and Nerdist, and I'm available for birthday parties, business conferences, whatever else. You know, people often talk about the world depicted in Blade Runner as a dystopia or a hellhole, but I see it in much happier terms. As in, Blade Runner 2049 thinks we're going to survive until 2049. I'll take it. Now, when I was a kid, the iconic science fiction movie landscapes, besides Star Wars, were Mad Max and Blade Runner, so it's surreal that as an adult, within 3 years, I've had the occasion to present Critics' Awards to Mad Max and Blade Runner sequels. But after this, I'm starting to wonder, were those my childhood memories? Were they programmed? Was this my favorite childhood toy? Never mind. We're more than the sum of our memories. There's been a lot of discussion lately about the degree to which a science fiction sequel should let the past die. But I happen to think it's more of a challenge to keep the cinematic language of the past, stay true to it, and extend it naturally, evolving that world forward in a way that makes sense for both the past and the future. Dennis Gassner's production design has done that, and tonight we thank him. And unfortunately, he's very sick today. Get your flu shots, everyone. He sent me a message, and I'm going to convey it right now. I wish I were able to be with you in person tonight, but I want to thank the Los Angeles Film Critics Association for this tremendous honor. It was a tremendous challenge to conceive the look of Blade Runner 2049, moving forward 30 years from the world first brought to the screen in Ridley Scott's iconic film. But I cannot imagine a more rewarding experience. It was a truly collaborative effort, and I share this award with our amazing director, Denis Villeneuve, the brilliant Roger Deakins, and my entire team. I also want to thank Alcon, Warner Brothers, and Sony. Thank you again, and congratulations to all of tonight's honorees. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Dennis.
Hi, I'm LAEL LOEWENSTEIN. For over 30 years, Laurie Metcalf has been a staple of stage and screen, mostly small screen. We knew her as Jackie on Roseanne, as Sheldon's mom, Mary Cooper, currently, on The Big Bang Theory, as an older Nora in Broadway's A Doll's House Part 2, and as Andy's mom in the Toy Story series. But while a character actor, or one known for smaller parts, may manage to keep on working, it doesn't exactly make you a household name until you get that movie that you've been waiting your whole career for. Just ask J.K. Simmons if you don't believe me. Metcalf has that part and more in Lady Bird, the magical, deeply felt coming-of-age story set in Sacramento. As Lady Bird's mom, Marion, she is loving, exhausted, and wholly committed. In the last few weeks, I heard and eavesdropped on a number of people who were discussing Lady Bird. While all of them seemingly agreed that Saoirse Ronan's title character was a spirited marvel. They held vastly different opinions of Marion. That character, one of them said was selfless, one of them said was a bitch. One called her overprotective, another self-serving. To my mind, she is a deeply authentic, a frustrated, an intuitive, a deeply caring mom. The fact that one part and one performance could elicit so many different opinions is a testament to Metcalf's artistry and to her authenticity. She fills her role with so much nuance, it's hard to know where the actor ends and the character begins. It is Laurie Metcalf's relatability that shines through, as always. We are so proud to present the LAFCA Award for Best Supporting Actress to Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird.
Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be here. I had the amazing good fortune to work with two powerhouse women behind Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig and Saoirse Ronan. And we all know deep down that when women are heard, when our stories are told and understood, we are all, men and women, boys and girls, better for it. So Greta not only wrote, but directed a complex mother-daughter relationship so simply and elegantly. And Saoirse portrayed that awkward teenage dance of exuberance and insecurity with such fierce grace. It's a beautiful reminder that we can't let what we want for one another get in the way of our love for one another. It's hard to let ladybirds go, I know, I've had to do it before. And we cross our fingers and we hope that the world will be as gentle a place for them as it can be. And that's all that a mother has ever wished for her daughter. A better life and a better world to live it in. I thank A24, Scott Rudin, everyone who put their time and effort and heart into Lady Bird, and especially the Los Angeles Film Critics Association for this recognition. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Ehrenstein, and I'm here to present the Douglas Edwards Independent Experimental Award, which we give every year now to something much smaller and often very, very different from what you might find elsewhere. This year we're giving it to a documentary entitled Purge This Land, which is about John Brown, the great abolitionist, which, as you know from the song, his body lies a moldering in the grave. Well, these days I would say John Brown's body is turning over in its grave, thanks to President Shithole. Yeah, well, you know, this is a very simple film with a lovely narration, very discrete images, but telling very fiercely the story of everything that's happened in this country since John Brown tried to stage a revolution that would end slavery, and he was, of course, killed for it. I often find myself quoting what Susan Sontag said back in 1966, the white race is the cancer of human history. She later took that back when she came down with cancer. She felt she'd extended the metaphor a bit too much and became too personal, but I still like it, you know? There's something about it that's sort of neat, especially when you consider the fact that racism is baked into the Constitution of the United States. The Second Amendment, which we commonly refer to as being about the right to gun ownership, is actually about the establishment of militias in the states. And these militias, the duty of these militias was to hunt down and kill slaves and also slaughter whatever Native Americans came in their way. That's what it is. It's a license to kill. It's the license to kill anybody who isn't white.
Tell it.
I'm telling it. Meanwhile, there are people who are white who don't care, who did not care for this. John Brown was one of them, and Leanne Schmidt, the creator of this marvelous film, is another. And I'm sure there are a lot more. But tonight, we're honoring Leanne Schmidt.
Hi, thanks so much. This is a huge honor, and I thank you all. It's very unexpected. I started this film just about 6 years ago, just before I found out I was pregnant with my son. I've been obsessed with John Brown for decades. My son's father is black, so my son will grow up as a black man in America. So I made this film for them. I could say that in the years I worked on the film, there was this unrelenting amount of violence against young black bodies. But that would be to obscure the amount of systematic violence that is American history. Every time I show the film, or whenever I talk about the film, there's a moment in the news to say, this seems ever more relevant. And people have asked me again and again, what's it like to make a film about racial violence in this era of renewed racism? But there's a lot of people in America that never had the luxury to think racism had ended. So I want to thank my family, because I made it for them. I want to thank my partner, Jeff Parker, who wrote the music for the film, which is a huge part of the film. I want to thank our children, Ezra and Ruby, because we make our work for them. Thank you again.
Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Rayner, here to present the Career Achievement Award to a man who many of us in this room think is our greatest living actor. I'm seated next to Max von Sydow's son, Cedric, who will be here shortly, and he confirmed an anecdote that I'd once heard, that apparently his father on the set of The Seventh Seal was the only man to have the balls to say, "For God's sake, Ingmar, will you please lighten up?" There's a quote from Hannah and Her Sisters that I think is particularly appropriate these days, that Max said. He said, if Jesus came back and saw what was going on in his name, he'd never stop throwing up. Surely no actor has played with more range and versatility on the screen than our honoree tonight, or for that matter on the stage for those who've been lucky enough to see him perform on stage. He's played Jesus, Satan, and the Exorcist. And imagine growing up with your father playing Jesus. That must have been interesting. He's played royalty, both Earthbound and Interstellar. For the youngish audience who's never heard of Ingmar Bergman or even Woody Allen, he's likely known primarily for his appearances in Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and most recently, Game of Thrones. But the briefest of surveys throughout his 100-something films beginning in 1949, Yields Up Riches, that are synonymous with the finest work of some of the world's finest directors. His 11 movies with Ingmar Bergman, beginning with The Chess-Playing Knight and The Seventh Seal, and extending to The Passion of Anna and Shame, where he plays a weakling musician in a time of war, unable to shoot even a chicken, represents one of the great actor-director collaborations. Equally great and far less remarked are his 8 film collaborations with that other great Swedish director, Jan Troell, for whom he acted in the peerless dual epics, The Emigrants and The New Land. To watch the poor farmer and religious outcast that he plays in that first film set foot in the new world of Minnesota is to watch an actor convey the full furnace blast of freedom. Von Sydow has the very rare ability to play characters who are both intensely lifelike and larger than life. He gives his roles an epic scope, not simply because he is such an imposing presence with a profile fit for a gold coin, but also because he brings into his performances such an all-encompassing emotional and psychological range. There are so many astounding examples of this, but allow me to close with a single example from perhaps his finest performance as the Nobel Prize-winning Norwegian novelist Knut Hamsun in Jan Troell's 1998 masterpiece, Hamsun. It's a scene that is shot almost entirely in close-up, and this is fitting since no actor has ever taken the camera more impressively in close-up. Arrested at the war's end for collaboration with the Nazis, this doddering, imperially cranky novelist who refused to believe what the Nazi did to the Jews is shown footage of the liberation of the camps. The scene of him watching this footage is almost entirely focused on his face and the emotions that pass through this face. It's all there in waves, a mixture of pride and grief and anger and disbelief and denial and humiliation. It's one of the most powerful and eloquent pieces of acting I've ever seen, and all of it is wordless. So it's my great honor to present the Career Achievement Award to Max von Sydow and his son, accepting Cedric von Sydow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really honored to be here tonight on behalf of my dad, Max von Sydow.
But I'm here, Cedric, I'm here. Well, if not physically, so at least in spirit. And I'm very grateful to Los Angeles Film Critics Association. A sincere thank you from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful award. But I would also like to address my gratitude to all those people who through the years have given me the opportunity to be part of interesting films. It's about 140, I believe. No, don't worry, I'm not going to list them all here tonight. But I would like to address my very special thoughts and gratitude to 2 men. To the late Ingmar Bergman, whose inspiration and encouragement helped me through 11 films, and I don't know how many stage productions back in Sweden, and to the late George Stevens, who had the courage to invite me to this wonderful country with its capital of filmmaking, with its surprising possibilities. Thank you very, very much.
I'm sorry that you didn't see Max on stage because he has had the long theater career in which he played a lot of comedies. That's right. Unfortunately, he never happened in movies. So between you and me, he's still waiting for a good, witty comedy. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Robert Kohler. As I remark in my note on Dunkirk in tonight's program, film editing can seem invisible, but it can also on rare occasions have a shape. In extremely rare cases, it can be sculptural. The sculpturing of Lost Highway through its editing was, David Lynch has explained, a Mobius strip. Bottom is top, top is bottom, and the end is in the beginning. Alain René, with his editors Jasmine Chasny and Henri Copy, sculpted last year at Marienbad as a corridor of reflecting mirrors, the one side reflecting back on the other. Dunkirk is one of those rare sculptural works in cinema. It's one reason why it's a radical work of art. This sculpture is a giant coil formed by editor Lee Smith and director Christopher Nolan with 3 strands of film representing the movie's 3 locations: the mole, or the dock from which Allied soldiers are attempting to escape an advancing Nazi blitz, the sea, the English Channel, where British civilian boats are on a rescue mission to Dunkirk's beaches, and the air, where a determined squad of British Spitfires try to fend off German air attacks. The coil is at first invisible, and then it emerges. It rises, it tightens, and it grips. Finally, it releases in an extraordinary sequence. This is suspense at its most profound, as an actual physical thing that you can feel. Dunkirk, the battle, has been called a miracle, but so is this movie. So with that, the Los Angeles Film Critics Association is proud, very proud, to present its award for Best Film Editing to Lee Smith for Dunkirk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow, that was some intro. Thank you. It's a great honor to be recognized by LAFCA. This film was, one of those films that comes along once in your life, and I feel very privileged that Chris Nolan has let me work with him for 7 years, because, quite frankly, he's going to find me out one of these years, and he's an amazing director. The script of Dunkirk was so tight, even though there's not much that is conveyed in dialogue. It's a story that's so complex in the construction and timelines that I'd like to say it came together really easily, but it didn't. But it turned out incredibly well, and I think we were all very, very nervous that it would do business, basically, because it still costs a lot of money, and I'd like to thank Warner Brothers for paying for it, because I can't imagine, a film based upon basically an evacuation seeming that like a tentpole summer attraction, and but it did turn out to be something that the world's audience embraced, and it was a thrill to work on something that a lot of people have seen and experienced, and it was it was an experience, that film. So I'd like to thank Chris and his wife Emma Thomas, who's a great producer, Warner Brothers, and lastly my team, of course. I don't edit without a whole team running behind me, and this is an amazing honor. And of course I'd like to thank my wife, Kimberly, because you've put up with me doing this, and the hours are ridiculous, and I apologize again, but I'll do something easier soon. But anyway, thank you very much and for listening to that very rambling speech. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Charles Solomon, and if you think I'm going to tell you when I graduated from high school, college, or film school, guess again. It was sometime between the end of the Civil and Gulf Wars, and that's close enough. Americans typically associate animation with fairy tale musicals and slapstick comedy. In The Breadwinner, Nora Twomey and her talented artists reminded us how much more the art form is capable of. Blending two distinct visual styles, the film chronicles both the physical and emotional journey of Parvana, a heroine faced not with a problematic boyfriend or with a father who just doesn't understand her, but with the brutal sexist repression of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. Forced to sacrifice her femininity and her identity to preserve her family, Parvana draws on her inner resources of imagination, courage, and love to triumph over these formidable foes. Breadwinner bears witness to the courage of women who face this kind of oppression even today, to the power of the art of animation to present this material, and to the talent of Nora Twomey and the artists at Cartoon Saloon, and it is therefore a highly appropriate recipient of the LAFCA Award for Best Animated Film.
Hi, my name is Anthony Leo. I'm one of the producers on the film. And just on behalf of Aircraft Pictures, Cartoon Saloon, and Melusine Productions, I wanted to thank the Los Angeles Film Critics Association for this tremendous honor tonight. So many people believed in this film in order to make it happen. We had our government agencies and investors in Canada, and Luxembourg, and Ireland. Special shout out to two people who truly believed in this film from the beginning, our executive producer, Mimi Polk-Gitlin, and my wife, Sheila, who's also here with us tonight. We really had an embarrassment of riches as far as the talent that went into making this film. 4 women in particular were the ones responsible for leading us there, starting with Deborah Ellis, the author of the novel, The Breadwinner, our screenwriter, Anita Duran, executive producer Angelina Jolie, and last but not least, by any stretch of the imagination, our director Nora Twomey.
Thank you. With The Breadwinner, we asked you to believe that a couple of lines moving across the screen were living, breathing human beings with hopes and dreams for the future. This wouldn't have worked unless we had a team of incredible people behind the project, over 300 people working over 3 different countries across several years. The Breadwinner binds all of their talents together. Nearly 2 decades ago, Deborah Ellis wrote the character of Parvana, a young girl growing up in Afghanistan. I think that this film shows us that young girls, no matter where they come from in this world, they have a right to an education, they have a right to a roof over their heads, and they have a right to a childhood. So I just want to thank LAFCA very much for this honor. Thank you.
Hey, you guys, I'm Christy LEMIRE from, hi, Table 8, from RogerEbert.com, hi, Chaz, mwah. From What the Flick, hi, Alonzo, mwah. And I'm here to present the award for Best Music or Score to Johnny Greenwood. Please clap. He's not here to hear you do it. the biggest bummer of all, Johnny Greenwood is not here tonight. I'm so sad to report that. His music for the Phantom Thread is so beautiful. The Phantom Thread is so beautiful and so perfect. And if he were here, I would pick his brain and I would ask him, how do you do it over and over again with Paul Thomas Anderson? This collaboration over the past decade has resulted in these perfect scores. They are the perfect musical manifestation of the characters that Paul Thomas Anderson creates and the settings, which are so vivid. And never is that more the case than with Phantom Thread, where the music, it is Reynolds Woodcock. I mean, it's precise and yet gorgeous and lush and transporting, and yet there's a slightest little hint from the very, very beginning of the score that something's gonna happen, and it's gonna be nutty. You know from the very, very start when he's shaving, combing his hair, it all looks very, very precise, but no, something is going to happen. And so I don't know how he does it, but it makes you want to have that music in your life at all times, like while you're cleaning the house or while you're buttering your toast and eating it very quietly and not speaking during breakfast, because you don't. Anyway, if he were here, I would tell him all of that, and I'm just so dazzled by everything he does. He has a side gig, this band called Radiohead that you might have heard of. They're going places. You're going to hear about them. We're hearing more and more about Radiohead. Anyway, Johnny Greenwood's great, Phantom Thread's great. I'm going to carry this award around for a little while and feel like a musical genius myself, so thank you.
Hi, I am Stephen Farber, and I'm here to present, thank you very much, present the Best Actor Award to Timothée Chalamet. Over the decades, there hasn't exactly been a shortage of coming-of-age movies with teenage protagonists. And yet, this past year, we saw two exceptional movies that revitalized that genre, Lady Bird and Call Me By Your Name. The second film that I'm dealing with, Call Me By Your Name, is a deeply moving love story and an unusually vivid portrait of the life of a group of intellectuals living in Italy. At the center of the story is the 17-year-old hero, Elio, brilliantly portrayed by Timothée Chalamet. To play the part, Chalamet mastered the piano, the guitar, perfected his fluency in Italian, and also demonstrated unexpected agility with a peach. But these were all external, if exceptional, achievements. More remarkable was the complexities that he brought to his characterization. He expresses bracing cynicism as well as romantic ardor and a touching vulnerability. When Elio's father, beautifully played by Michael Stuhlbarg, compliments him for his openness to passionate first love, he's affirming what Chalamet has already conveyed in his evocative and expressive performance. This young actor takes the audience on a journey of exhilarating discovery and heartbreaking loss, and he makes us feel that we are witnessing this primal adolescent adventure for the very first time. So LAFCA is pleased to present our award for Best Actor of 2017 to Timothée Chalamet.
Thank you so much for that, Stephen. Wow, I didn't know I was doing all that while I was shooting the movie. I was with Army, who plays Oliver once, and the film critic Anthony Lane was around, and I said to Army, oh, that's Anthony Lane. I really want to speak to him. I love his writing. And Army said, you don't want to speak to that guy. What he has to say about the movie is way smarter than what you have to say. So, and sure enough, he asked me about a book I was reading in a specific scene. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but 16 months later I didn't, and I thought, oh, fuck, So, anyhow, sorry. Thank you so much to the Los Angeles Film Critics Association for this honor. And as always, thank you to Michael Barker and Tom Bernard at Sony Picture Classics for taking on this movie, believing in it. You guys are very close this time, so, okay. And the biggest thanks obviously goes to my director and the maestro, Luca Guadagnino, but I will get into this more later. There's something particularly gratifying about getting this award, as I was born and raised in New York, and I hope that isn't like blasphemy here, but Los Angeles has always scared me a bit. But in truth, Los Angeles has become a second home of sorts in recent years. One of the sweeter moments of the last year was getting to bring my sister to the Golden Globes. She was elated and proud, and I could look around and be assured that I was not the least famous person there, because that was my sister. But honestly, my favorite part of this last year, getting to act in other films and getting to talk about Call Me By Your Name, has not been having to audition constantly. I try to learn from the folks I work with, and I did a reading with William H. Macy once, who said to me that the best thing to happen to him in his life, besides having a wife and kids, was not having to constantly audition. In New York, I could have a terrible audition, and to make up for my mood, I could dance on the subway for 30 minutes. And to those of you that thought that was metaphorical, it's not. A lot of my old rap videos have made their way online, and I'm just waiting for a video of me dancing on the 2 train. And yet, in Los Angeles, this was never the case. A terrible audition is always followed by a long Uber ride home. I've often thought to myself the most important part of auditioning is the second you leave the room. The easier you go on yourself, the more likely you'll be able to bounce back and act without anxiety the next time you audition. And this was just a mentality I always had a hard time ascribing to in Los Angeles. The emptiness and existential crisis that it is to walk out of a casting office on Sunset Boulevard was overwhelming. In 2015, I auditioned for a casting director named Sarah Finn at her office on 588 North Larchmont Boulevard, and a project I was dying to do, Spider-Man. And I read twice, and I left sweating in a total panic. I called my agent, Brian Swartstrom, who's here tonight, and I said to him, Brian, I've thought about this a lot, and I have to go back and knock on that door and read again. And he told me the story of Sean Young, who, in an attempt to become Catwoman, had scared everyone away when she showed up at the studio gates in costume. The irony is that it was a project in which I met the director 3 years prior, that wasn't a big studio film, and where I never auditioned, that has been the medium to getting to go to dinners and things like this, and to get an introduction like the one I got from you, Stephen, which, please, 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 for everyone in the room, know this doesn't fly over my head for a second. None of this is taken for granted. I know the risk of what it is to become an old, washed-up person now because of this moment. So, I'm just so appreciative that it was a story that feels like it had to be told about a boundaryless and definitionless expression of love that is maybe counterintuitive to the Western and stringent ways we've talked about love and sexuality in the past. That, again, is the medium in which I get to be here with all of you tonight. Now, Luca, you are, this means nothing coming from a 22-year-old, but seriously, you're like a genius to me. And the experience of getting to be there a month and a half prior to the movie, and Luke has this incredible screening room in Crema where we shot the movie in this beautiful apartment, and it was like a film education. It was really like getting to go to school, and where I watched Babette's Feast, which I understand to be a great movie, but it's just not my kind of movie, Luca. It's great, okay? It's great. I'm just being honest, okay? It's excellent. I'm looking at the critics shaking their head. It's excellent, but it's not for me, okay? But also Alien, which is a great movie, and I loved. And Body Double. Listen, it's true. And I'm still at a loss as to why you took a chance on someone with as little street cred as myself. But thank you, and I've said it before, but this is the ride of a lifetime, Luca, really. And And I talked about like something like Spider-Man, and weirdly, it's the gift of the universe here that I'm getting people saying, keep working on these kinds of projects and keep working with things of integrity and that are more independently oriented. And certainly, if it was a Chris Nolan opportunity or Guillermo, give me a call if you want to work. Okay. I'm totally serious about that. Yeah, exactly. Please. Then that's great. But I know what an honor this is, and that I want to do everyone in here proud that gave me a vote, and that I'll continue pursuing these things with integrity. With the last person I mentioned, that is only the perfect roadmap when I look at this, and it's Michael Stuhlbarg. And thank you so much, Michael, for the mentorship on this movie. And as I said, I'm a New York guy, and Michael is a stage legend in New York, and it was Martin McDonough, the Pillow Man. That was my first exposure to him. But with Shape of Water and The Post and Call Me by Your Name and Fargo, it's like, how do you do it, man? Yeah. So and I don't want to end awkwardly like that, but I guess I'm just gonna have to. But seriously, thank you so much for having me tonight. Really. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and fish creatures. My name is Michael Nordine, and I get to present the award for Best Actress to Sally Hawkins. Yes. The Shape of Water's Princess Without Voice. If I told you about her, what would I say? Is a question asked about her character, Eliza Esposito, in the film. And it's one I've thought a lot about recently. And as I sat down to watch the movie for the second time, I realized that one of my favorite things about it is that I'd almost forgotten she was mute. Because so often when a role calls upon a performer to limit themselves in some way, that's almost the entire character. It's what people like me write about. It's what gets the headlines. But this performance is so fully realized and so three-dimensional that Eliza's condition informs who she is without ever defining her. In the same way that they say losing one of your senses can cause the others to heighten and expand, the fact that Eliza doesn't speak, aside for one scene in which she sings marvelously, it almost draws our attention to everything else she does do, to the way she signs, to the way she gestures and emotes and dances, all of which she does wonderfully. Like a lot of Guillermo del Toro's movies, The Shape of Water has the feel and the power of a fairy tale, and it's the rare fairy tale in which the princess is also the protagonist. Now, sadly, Sally could not be here tonight. My personal theory is that she didn't want to break character by speaking, but she did send us something, so I'm going to read that to you much less eloquently than she would have. This is a huge honor for me to be recognized by you all. Thank you with all my heart. It means a great deal to me, more than I can truly put in words, which is apt, but I will try. I have a great admiration and respect for the work that critics do, those who have a real passion and love for film. Indeed, we would be lost without you. I am sorry that I cannot be with you this evening. I hope that in time I will get to thank you all personally. I also hope that. This film is very special for me, and I am only here because of the greatness of others. I stand high on the shoulders of giants. Guillermo del Toro has written and created something so exceptionally special. I always knew that it was from his soul, his heart, and that it was a gift to entrust me with a piece of it. He is a master storyteller, a seemingly fearless and brilliant and beautiful human. Thank you for the kindness you give the world through your stories. You celebrate difference and otherness, rewriting the myth that otherness is something to be suffocated or feared. And I'm lucky enough to call Guillermo family. I don't know how I ever became so lucky to do what I do, for nothing makes me happier or feel more free, especially when I'm working with genius. Thank you to Dear Fox Searchlight for your love and support and genuine care for our film and the humans involved with it. Again, I call you family. Thank you for giving The Shape of Water such golden wings. Thank you to this exceptional production team and crew guided by the powerhouse engine that is Miles Dale. To dear Dan LAUSTSEN, his impeccable gentle eye, his light. To Paul Austerberry and his art team with the best sets that never felt like sets but breathing, living paintings. To Louis Sequeira and your brilliant team who I miss, thank you for your beautiful creations that made me feel like that princess even while wearing a janitor's uniform. To the makeup and hair department, Paula Fleet and Jordan Samuel, for your talent and patience. I am sorry for my fringe, Paula. The wonderfully passionate Roberto Campagnello and his dancing team, Christina and Danny, again, thank you eternally for all your patience and kindness. My ASL tutors, Justin Jackson and Amanda Richter, it was an honor to work with you both, and I hope I did you proud. And then there's this cast, this incredible cast, all of whom were and now are even more so my heroes. It has been an honor to work with you all. Again, you feel like family to me, and every one of you made me feel better, made me look good, far better than I am. Doug Jones is a shapeshifter. He is magical and completely, utterly unique. No one else I know has his ability to transform. Even encased in rubber, you are the most beautiful creature. Richard, I adore you. You have a gold lion heart, and you made my own heart sing every day. Octavia, my sister, you have no idea of your incredible talent and beauty. I hope one day you do. For I believe there is nothing you cannot achieve. Michael Shannon and Michael Stolberg, you are both close to genius, I believe. I do not know how you do what you do. I wish I did. I just hope we all get to work together again. For you all made me so much better than I am. Thank you to my dear agent, John Grant, for your patience and loving despite my insanity and oddness. Thank you, dear Hilda Aquili and Larry Taub. Thank you, dear Karen Maskill, for your understanding and help and care. To my blood family, I would not be able to do what I do without you. I love you and you inspire me every single day. Thank you. It is a great year to be alive as a woman in Hollywood, witnessing such bravery and feeling that great hope that change can happen for good. Guillermo teaches us that it is our differences and our uniqueness that make this world great, beautiful, and magical. And I believe in magical, for look where I am. Thank you.
There was a tie for Best Foreign Language Film at our voting this year. My name is Jean Oppenheimer, and I am pleased to be presenting an award to one of our winners, director Andrei Zvyagintsev, and his film Loveless. You can't help but wonder how Mr. Zvyagintsev, I'm just going to call him Andrei. You can't help but wonder how Andrei manages to keep making movies in Russia. He isn't exactly a Kremlin favorite. His last two films in particular, Leviathan 3 years ago and Loveless, the film for which we're honoring him tonight, both make penetrating social and political observations about his homeland. Observations the ruling class considers disparaging. Leviathan was openly critical of the Russian government, contending that corruption was rampant. Loveless, which also won the jury prize at the 2017 Cannes Film Festival, calls attention to a kind of social and moral malaise that has descended upon his countrymen. While Loveless may be set in Russia, the condition it explores extends to all societies, including our own. And that is what makes this film so important and so relevant. The Museum of Modern Art in New York City is holding a retrospective of Andrei's work this weekend. He was in Manhattan for the opening last night. He hopped a plane this morning, arrived here in Los Angeles this afternoon. In less than 24 hours, he will be returning to New York, and I want to thank him for making the effort to be here in person. We really appreciate it. And I also hope he doesn't forget to register for all his frequent flyer miles. So Andrei, come up, and with him will be the producer of the film, Alexandra Rodnansky.
Добрый вечер. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Майкл. Но прежде всего я хотел выразить свое восхищение и свое уважение к тем, кто из этого зала сегодня выйдут с наградами. И выразить свою благодарность за то вдохновение, которое вы своим талантом внушаете нам и зрителям. Это первое. Второе. Конечно, я хотел поблагодарить Майкла и Тома Sony Classics. Майкл и Том Sony Classics за наше совместное вот это такое любопытное путешествие, которое, я надеюсь, закончится интересно. Я так надеюсь. Конечно, благодарю нашу команду, которая меня сейчас не слышит, но которую я безмерно люблю, и Александра Роднянского, моего продюсера, который, надеюсь, сейчас все это переведет на английский.
Right. Let me try to translate it. First of all, I want to express my admiration and respect to all the fantastic filmmakers who are receiving the awards tonight. Very well-deserved awards. Secondly, I want to thank Michael Barker and Tom Bernard and Sony Pictures Classic for the journey we're repeating again after the Leviathan. I want to thank LA Film Critics Association for this award. I am very honored. And I want to thank the whole crew of mine who is, unfortunately, everyone is not here. And they don't hear me, but everything what we did, it's just because of them. And he wants his producer, it's me, to translate everything what he said. Let me use this opportunity when this moment when Andre doesn't understand me, and say that we've done together almost all his films, and I feel privileged to work with a director who is compromiselessly honest about his films, and whose films are compromiselessly honest about the reality. And we both believe that the purpose of the cinema is to build bridges, not walls. Between people, not presidents. And in the times like this, it is very important to build another cultural bridge. And we're very grateful for this award to Los Angeles Film Critics. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ella Taylor, another in the seemingly endless supply of underpaid film critics. We are actually giving 2 awards for Best Foreign Language Film this year, and the one that I'm here to talk about is BPM, or Beats Per Minute. And as I look around this room, I realize that, in fact, there are some people here who are so young that they either don't know or can't remember the ACT UP movement, both in the United States and in Europe. In this case, the film is a French film about French ACT UP, which was a non-violent but strategically poorly behaved movement that tried to speed delivery of drugs for HIV/AIDS, especially to marginalized groups. This is actually a very thrilling drama, but the film is also, as directed by Robin Campillo, a procedural. I happen to love procedurals, but it's a procedural in 2 very unusual ways. One is that it tries to recreate, with an enormous ensemble cast, the make it up, do it yourself, as you fly by the seat of your pants business of trying to be impolite and take to the streets when nothing else would work. And as such, it's really quite fascinating to watch. it is also a procedural love story, which is a rather unusual way to look at those things, but there's a parallel love story between two young men that goes on during the course of this movie, which has to be equally inventive and creative, because this was a time where falling in love and making love would bring you not only social stigma, but you could also die from it. It is an extraordinary movie. Robin Campillo, who made the movie, flew all the way here only to languish in his hotel room with a very bad case of the flu. So he's not here tonight, and I do want to say to him that while we're very grateful that he's not here to breathe on us, nonetheless, we're very sorry that he's not here. And Paul Davidson from Orchard is going to come and receive the award in his place.
Thanks very much. As she said, Robin has spared you all from the disease that has landed on him, but he was here. He was very excited and thrilled, and for the passion that LA Film Critics has extended towards his film Beats Per Minute. Beats Per Minute, as was mentioned previously, it's a film about ACT UP Paris in the 90s, but it's an extremely timely film in today's day and age. Activism and standing up for what you believe in, whatever that may be, this film shows that despite the era, despite the time, that we can all do that and we can all stand for what we believe in. And I think that's what's resonated for Robin's film BPM, and he thanks the LA Film Critics for this honor tonight. Thanks very much.
Good evening, I'm Peter DeBruge with Variety, here to present, thank you to my fans, Luca. I'm here to present the Best Documentary Nonfiction Award to Faces Places. Unfortunately, Agnes Varda could not be with us here in Los Angeles tonight. I know that will come as a disappointment to many of you. This is the fourth time that LAFCA has honored Ms. Varda. First, 75 years ago with the New Generation. I'm just kidding. More like 30 years ago, we gave her first award for foreign language film for Vagabond, then twice more for Best Documentary. Yep, Vagabond, let's hear it for Vagabond. Twice more for her documentaries The Gleaners and I and The Beaches of Agnes. I do have good news for you, though. If you were hoping to see Agnes, you can here in Los Angeles, thanks to her co-director, JR, who is here tonight. JR, who is a street mural artist, graffiti, he's kind of created his own genre, visited Los Angeles a few months back and kind of went to town. If you drive up Motor, just north of Venice Boulevard, there kind of on your right side, about a block up, you'll see what looks like a snow-capped mountain with these two giant eyes peering out from under it. That is indeed the face of the head of Agnes Varda, 2 stories tall on the side of a building. Or if you drive up La Cienega Boulevard, just past Washington, you'll see her Tootsies, big as can be, on the side of her gallery, Blum and Poe. Look for those as you're kind of wandering around Los Angeles. But those are, Agnes's toes that you'll see as you did in the movie. What I love about these two filmmakers who began both of their careers as photographers, separated by about 50 years in age, Agnes was snapping portraits of fishermen and ordinary people that she met. JR was taking photos himself of people he encountered and blowing them up to the size of buildings, turning these little people into giant murals. Both are inherently curious, but more importantly, they follow through on that curiosity. That is their art. They engage with people and things that the rest of us tend to overlook. They see beauty in the mundane and reframe it in such a way that we can't help but share in this new perspective. But most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, and the great delight of Faces Places, they are playful souls. They take genuine pleasure in what they create. How wonderful then that these two artists found one another and set out to make a documentary that chronicles an assortment of encounters that they had with so many uncommon commoners around the country of France. In their travels, Agnès asked questions, while JR does his thing, taking photos and posting them on the sides of buildings, walls, anything he can find. A few of them still stand the way that these two Agnès murals do here in Los Angeles. Others are ephemeral, captured just long enough for the duo's documentary cameras, which, of course, serve to make them eternal. It's a splendid movie, full of humor, humanity, from a pair of forever kids. Thank you, Agnès. Thank you, JR, for reminding us how fun art can be. Congratulations.
It's actually really hard to be here without Agnès Varda, because we're like an old couple, me and her. And we promise each other to not go and take any award or present the movie without each other. And just a minute ago, I checked my email. I'm sorry, not before your speech, an in-between speech. And I saw an email on Agnès Varda. And in France right now, it's 5:30 in the morning. So it's like, why is she's writing me at 5:30 in the morning? So I tried her, and she happened to be online. Agnès.
Bonjour.
So, you know, it's really, yes.
Modern life is incredible.
Yeah, no, you're live.
Yes, incredible. I wish I were there.
No, I'm here for you. So apparently they changed the price. It's just for me, Agnès.
I would like to kiss Beverly and Len. Well, anyway, you do the speech.
No, do the speech. I didn't write anything, so do it, please.
Okay, I have been already enjoying the award of the Los Angeles Film Critics. So for me, it is not a premiere. It's a good one.
Don't show off too much. Don't show off too much.
This one, I get it with JR. And he represents me much better. He's younger and he's taller.
That's true that if you were here, you wouldn't reach the mic, so I would have had to translate for you anyway.
Kisses to everybody.
There's a lot of people that love you here, Agnès.
It's good to hear. Believe me, it's one of the good things to start a day because it is 6 morning. 6 is time to get up for me.
Now, if I read them your email, Agnès, you were saying you were going back to bed. That's why I FaceTime you in an urgent.
I was writing about Guillermo del Toro.
He's right there. He can hear you.
But he's getting a Globe Award.
Yeah. She was emailing me about your award, saying you have to grab him and tell him that I want to congrats him. He's taking you for dinner in Paris, Agnès.
Well, I love you all.
Tu veux rester pour mon speech? Je te garde à côté de moi. You want to control what I say, Agnès?
I want to hear and
Okay.
check.
And check, so you can fact check. I keep you far away from the mic so you can't correct me. Very briefly, it's been an incredible adventure working with Agnès because we've never met, we've never been in the same room together. I knew about her film, of course, and I think she'd heard about my work, but nothing predicted that we would do anything together. And her daughter, Rosalie, connected us by email and say, would you love to come and have tea at home with Agnès? I was like, of course, I wouldn't miss a chance to spend a moment with Agnès. So I went to her house where she's right now, and we just had tea. And then I took a photo of her with my phone thinking I might never see her again, but I said, I would love you to come to my studio if you can, one day, and so the next day she came to my studio and she hung with us all day. And then she said, I want to see you again. I was like, me too. So I came back to her home the next day. And that day we were like, let's do a 2-minute little short film. Let's do a piece of whatever it is. And literally for a year together we've traveled, but we've never talked about making a movie. We just we film each other. We went and filmed people all over in France. And I think we were scared of making a movie. Oh, you see, that's no. So as I was saying, that's my version of the fact, Agnes. And
Never afraid.
you're not afraid. You're afraid of nothing. You want to correct me? You're not afraid. That's it.
I was not afraid to make a film with you.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay. So anyway, we never wrote any script. We just follow our heart, and so everything that's happening, being here tonight, for a French man to be here at the LA Film Critic Academy getting an award, it's like for a Californian chef to get a 3-star Michelin in France. It's huge. So I don't take that lightly. Thank you, everyone, and I wish Agnes was here, but she's, in a way here with us. You want to say last word, Agnes?
Well, again, I feel like I am with you. And now I start my day.
Good night, Agnes. I'm sure you're going back to bed. I know you. A little nap.
But it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Grierson, and it gives me, it gives me great pleasure tonight to present one of our 2 prizes for Best Director. I wish I could see the world through the eyes of Luca Guadagnino. His enrapturing films are filled with the complexity and the pleasure of how romance first sparks, then blossoms, then sometimes drifts away. Most directors' movies merely recreate the sensation of falling in love. His make you wonder if you've ever experienced anything quite so real. He depicts love so intensely because he sees life so beautifully. Call Me By Your Name continues a sensual and emotional exploration he began in previous movies, most recently in I Am Love and A Bigger Splash. But it also feels like a culmination, a wistful summation of our shared desire to make connection with someone, to be seen. Call Me By Your Name never strains for significance, and yet in its quiet, languid chronicling of Elio and Oliver's budding romance, it's profound, cosmic even. So how did he do it? Even his actors are not quite sure. When Michael Stuhlbarg was asked once about Guadagnino's methods, he searched for an answer. And then this is what he said. It's wonderful filmmaking, what he allows us to see. Look at this weaving path. Look at this leaf. Look at the rain. Look at a waterfall. All of these images in some perverse and magical language help tell the story. Since Call Me By Your Name's premiere at Sundance last year, critics have tried to encapsulate this film's poetry. But I think Michael Stuhlbarg's explanation is the truest. In Call Me By Your Name, Guadagnino gives us new eyes to see the world around us. Every little element matters, love above all else. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating our Best Director winner, Mr. Luca Guadagnino.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to
I want to say that I'm honored to share this with Guillermo del Toro. It's fantastic. I have not made any film schools. My film school has been studying film critics, reading book about cinema, book of interview to filmmakers from film critics, trying to be myself a film critic when I was younger for a few years, and studying cinema through the perspective of those filmmakers who started being film critics, in particular the great generations of the Nouvelle Vague, the New Waves, the Younger Joy Cinema, and so on and so on. I do believe that cinema is a language, it has a form, and the interpretation of reality through the lens of cinema comes through the way it's analyzed by people like film critics who let us understand cinema and reality. So I want to dedicate this to the Los Angeles Film Circle because you made me a director. Thank you.
I'm Joe Morgenstern, and I get thank you. And I get to introduce the other best director, Guillermo del Toro, for his extraordinary film, The Shape of Water. But before I do, Guillermo, I can't see you before the light because of the lights, but I want to congratulate you for the wonderful moment on the Golden Globes show when you faced down an enemy orchestra and insisted, after 25 years, you said, on an artist's right to have his say and have enough time to say it. We don't have an orchestra here, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'm not going to take any more of your time than I need to. But I do want to just recall quickly the first time that I met you, not saw you, but met you. It was longer than 25 years ago. It was at a place called Laser Blazer. Hey, that's nice that gets a response from this audience. It was on Overland, south of Pico, and it was the Laserdisc center of Los Angeles for some time. You were, huh? Like 8, yes, everything changes. You were in your early 20s, and I used to see you there. You were this young guy thumbing through the bins, and one day I stood behind you on the checkout line, and you were schmoozing with Ron, the proprietor. And when you walked out, I was so dazzled by your erudition and your passion that I said, "Who's that?" And he said, "His name is Guillermo del Toro, and I don't remember if he said he's a filmmaker or he wants to be a filmmaker, because I don't remember exactly the year. But it's just terribly moving to me that some of those laser discs that you watched then may have shaped the sensibility that shaped this masterpiece that you've made, The Shape of Water, and another masterpiece before it, Pan's Labyrinth. I met Guillermo and actually talked to him for the first time at the Telluride Film Festival last fall, and he said that he told me about how he cherished that Laserdisc collection. So I thought the very least that this group could do, in addition to giving him an award and a very nice plaque, was... Well, yes, I mean, this is the golden bag part of the ceremony. I found a really terrific Laserdisc. It's called FX. And just so you know, Guillermo, FX is an abbreviation that means special effects. please come up, get the disc, get your award, and all welcome the one and only.
I've seen this movie with Brian Dennehy. I'm Brian Brown. So I'll cherish it. And it's CLV, not CAV, so it wasn't freeze frame well. Much preferable in CAV. I still have my Laserdisc. I own, right now I still have 7,000 movies that I archive and alphabetically order. I have VHS, Laserdisc, and I have one machine that plays a Betamax for one single Betamax, which is James Whale's Frankenstein, unedited, without him throwing Maria into the lake, because I can't stand the new version when he throws her in the lake. I can't. But thank you for this, LAFCA. Thank you for this honor. I must say that the way we come here, Luca, it's an honor to be sharing this with you. It's an honor to be sharing this room with Greta, with Jordan, with everyone. This is fantastic. You know, we are guys that never go out to the prom. This is the prom for me. You know, my videos are not available on YouTube, Timothy. Thank God. But I must say, the way we come at our craft is different for all of us. In my case, I recall a fairy tale that I read when I was a very, very young boy. And it was about three brothers that set out into the world to find their fame and fortune any way they can. And the youngest of them is a boy that they think is useless and has his head in the clouds, and he goes through the road and collects things that seem vile or useless to everyone. He collects a piece of string, a dead magpie, a rock. And eventually they all make the way to the palace, and each of them tries to wow the princess in different ways. And this young kid, this strange kid with the head on the clouds, uses these pieces to tell a story to the princess and gains her hand. And I think that my road to what I do is similar. I fell madly in love with a genre that has never been and will never be prestigious, but that I find is the best way to tell parables and fables that affect me and affect the world deeply. And it's a primal form of storytelling. And I want to thank you tonight from both Jordan and myself for including us in the conversation at this season, because I do believe we have many things that we can contribute, and that we have inherited this mantle from everyone from Rod Serling, Ray Harryhausen, or the great storytellers of the past that started with fable and parable as a form of lesson. And thank you. 20-something years ago, when I wrote, I started more, 30 years ago when I started writing Kronos. And I knew no one could do the effects of that movie, so I embarked on a road of 8 to 10 years to create a company that could do the effects, where I could learn to make them, so I could make a feature that was Kronos. I was already interested in the voiceless and the nameless and the invisible people. I didn't want to tell a vampire story the way that you could do it in Europe or in America. I wanted to tell a very autobiographical story for my grandmother, in which a little girl, a granddaughter, and her grandfather, at the ages in which you don't pay attention in Hollywood in the stories, too young, too old, a woman and an old man. And I wanted to tell a middle-class vampire story that could illuminate eternity being not the granting of a lot of time, but not minding death. Many years later, a quarter of a century later, I'm still interested in people that nobody sees. I am interested in the nameless, in the voiceless, and in the invisible people, to tell a story about the other at a time in which, more urgently than ever, we need to see the other not with just kindness, but with empathy, and as a way to save ourselves. I don't know where we're going as a species. I do not have great hopes, but I do think that the only way we will survive into some form of adolescence as a species will be if we cherish each other. We talk about a great effort into looking at each other and listening to each other, and I think that it shouldn't be. Is the most basic form of decency, the most basic form of humanity, and the most basic form of artistry, to regard the other, to find ourselves. I thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Claudia PUIG. For many of us, thank you. For many of us, Lady Bird is the coming-of-age film we didn't know we were yearning for. And there was no better year for a strong, smart, funny, female-driven coming-of-age movie than 2017. Rarely has any film been so filled with moments that have you laughing and crying, sometimes in the same breath. If you're the voice of a new generation in film, can you also be a national treasure? Yes, if you're Greta Gerwig, right? It's a term usually reserved for those much older, but Gerwig, like her protagonist, defies the norms. I love Lady Bird without reservation, as does just about everybody else. It may seem astounding that a first-time filmmaker could write and direct such a profound and assured film, but it's not at all surprising that this first-time filmmaker is Gerwig. In her vivacious on-screen presence, she has impressed us with her unique ability to inhabit a character. Whenever she's on the cast list, we know it will be a better film for it. She's also been honing her craft as a screenwriter over the years, working with other filmmakers to create snappy dialogue and memorable characters. And now, her first solo endeavor has blown us all away. Hers is a voice justly lauded. While we'll all be quoting Lady Bird's brilliant and irreverent dialogue for years to come, we selfishly hope that she continues to give us even more material soon. Lady Bird's mother begs her to live up to her potential, but Gerwig is already the best version of herself. The rest of us should be so lucky. To quote from the film, Sister Sarah Joan, don't you think maybe they're the same thing, love and attention? Well, Greta Gerwig has both from us. I am beyond thrilled to present LA Film Critics' New Generation Award to Greta Gerwig.
Oh, thank you all so much. I apologize in advance. I used my drink ticket on a tequila, so I'm so honored to be in this room tonight, and I've been so honored to get to know these people that I admire so much, Jordan and Luca and Guillermo and Agnes, and it's incredible to me. I love films, and I've always wanted to be a filmmaker, and it took me a long time to actually say it out loud. And I started saying it out loud to journalists and film critics because I knew that they would hold me accountable to it. The first person who ever said to me, you told me you'd make a film, where is it, was actually Richard Brody. And he said, you said that 2 years ago. And I said, yes, this is why I did that, so that we would have this moment, and then I would feel the need to make a film. I have to thank my agent, who's here with me tonight, Jeremy Barber from UTA, who's been my agent for a very long time. He's another person I told that I wanted to direct films, and when I was having an agonizing moment, wondering if I should do this project or that project, he very sanely told me, Greta, we both know that that's not the question. The question is, when are you going to make your film? And it's because of so many people along the way, people who are in my life personally, people who I meet as I talk to people at film festivals and in interviews. So many people have encouraged me to do this, and it means so much to me that this effort has been met with such love. I want to thank my cast, and I would like to say all their names in a row because I've always wanted to. Laurie, Saoirse, Tracy, Timmy, Jordan, Mari, Lucas, Beanie, Odea, Stephen, and Catherine. It was an extraordinary group of actors who gave me their talents and their time. I'd like to thank A24 for everything that they've done. I'd like to thank my producers, Scott Rudin, Eli Bush, and Evelyn O'Neill. And I would like to also say I am especially honored to be considered part of the new generation, and I look forward to the next generation and the next generation when half of all films are directed by women. And I think that's coming very soon. And I'll end by saying my DP, the lovely Sam Levy, sent me a picture every week at the beginning of the week with a female filmmaker, and he said, "This is a picture for you, boss." And the first picture and the last picture was of Agnes. And so seeing her on FaceTime was very exciting for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Justin Chang, and I have the great honor of presenting our final award this evening. It's not often that you see your favorite movie of the year in the month of January, but that's what happened to me last year when I first saw Luca Guadagnino's entrancingly beautiful film, Call Me By Your Name, at the Sundance Film Festival. There were about 2,000 of us, I recall, shivering into the theater, doffing our parkas and our hats and our scarves, and settling in and suddenly finding ourselves transported to this glorious summer paradise in the northern Italian countryside, a world full of sunlight and sunbathing and dancing and music and Ravel and Sufjan Stevens and literature and architecture and history and sculpture. Like a lot of people that night, I walked back out into the freezing cold night air, feeling like I'd been warmed to the depths of my soul. I wanted to live in that movie. And on some weird level, it was almost as if I already had. As directed by Luca Guadagnino and shot by the gifted Thai cinematographer Sayumbu Muktiprom, Call Me By Your Name isn't just a movie of ravishing surfaces and textures, although it is certainly that. Like Andrea Simon's novel, so brilliantly adapted here by James Ivory, the movie is a triumph of emotional depth and psychological interiority. It takes familiar elements of the coming-of-age, summer-of-love drama and gives them an erotic languor worthy of Antonioni and a moment-by-moment domestic tension worthy of Chabrol. It marks the arrival of a sensational new talent in Timothée Chalamet and the rebirth of a movie star in Armie Hammer. It builds to one of the great monologues in modern cinema, superbly delivered by Michael Stuhlbarg, as the loving, understanding parent we always wanted, and perhaps even the loving, understanding parent we might someday become. Call Me By Your Name is a gay love story for the ages, and a love story for the ages, period. And no less than first love itself, it ravishes your senses, breaks your heart, and holds your memory captive. Please join me in congratulating the producers of the best film of 2017. Here to accept tonight are Luca Guadagnino, Peter Spears, and Marco Morabito.
Wow, thank you. I let Peter speak and Marco. I just want to say a few things. One is this award is to be shared with all our fantastic crew and this amazing casting. Without Timothy, Armie, Michael, Amira, Esther, and Vanda, we wouldn't been here. So thank you guys, this is amazing. And we wouldn't be here without the wisdom and the fun and the power of encouraging us that is coming from Michael Barker and Tom Bernard, Sony Picture Classics. Thank you so very much.
You know, like Willem, I remember that I had been here before also, though not at this award show. 28 years ago, I was a waiter here. And I worked one night. I had the flu. I threw up on some people that evening and was let go. And went home to my apartment just down Olympic Boulevard, where I was living in the closet of, literally and figuratively, in the closet of a friend's apartment, and I dreamed of nights like tonight, and I wanted to just thank everyone here for making that possible. So thank you very much. 10 years ago, we set out to make a movie that we needed when we were growing up. A great cinematic romance that challenged conventions and proved that love is love, that the magic, beauty, and mystery of love is something shared by all. Thank you for honoring that tonight with this award. And thank you to our amazing creative ensemble from around the globe who came together to make this film. Timmy, Michael, Tom, Melody, thank you all for coming together to support this. But for a moment, I'd just like to say, this guy here, Luca, every frame of this movie is a testimony to your singular vision and passion as a director and producer to tell this story. Up there on the screen, I see your furniture, your clothes, your dishes, your artwork, your food, your home, your town, but most of all, what I see, Luca, is your heart. You gave the world your heart, and for that I will forever be grateful. The experience of working with you on this movie has been one of the greatest gifts of my life. Thank you to Andre Asselman for trusting us with your beautiful book, and to my husband, Brian Swartstrom. I borrow a line from Mr. Asselman's novel: "If there is any truth in this world, it exists when I'm with you." In these challenging times, I keep thinking of the advice a friend gave me on the eve of the inauguration when our movie premiered at Sundance. He said something that I think all the wonderful artists honored here tonight share in common. He said, "Every day going forward, tell your stories of who you are and how you love, what you believe and what you've learned along the way. Don't be silenced. Refuse to be erased. It matters. We matter. Now more than ever." Thank you.